You people always think expensive clothes make you respectable. Officer Derek Mitchell's voice cuts through the suburban afternoon as he shoves the handcuffed black man forward. Jonathan Hayes stumbles in his $1,000 suit, wrists bleeding from the tight metal cuffs. Derek yanks Jonathan's tie like a leash, parading him past horrified neighbors. Children stare from their bicycles. A woman live streams, her phone shaking. "Look at this wannabe big shot!" Derek kicks Jonathan's scattered legal papers, grinding them under his boot. "Bet you stole that fancy watch, too." He slaps the Rolex on Jonathan's wrist, making it clatter against the handcuffs. The crowd gasps, but Jonathan's calm eyes hold a secret. Through his torn jacket, something metallic glints. A federal badge. 2 hours ago, this man was reviewing civil rights cases in his FBI office. Have you ever seen pure arrogance destroy someone's career in 60 seconds? The morning sun streams through the tall windows of the federal courthouse in downtown Chicago. Special Agent Jonathan Hayes sits at his mahogany desk, surrounded by case files that could change lives forever. His fingers trace over photographs of bruised faces and torn clothing. Each image tells a story of civil rights violations in suburban police departments. The coffee in his FBI mug has gone cold hours ago. "Another pattern emerging in Oak Brook," Jonathan murmurs, highlighting statistics on his computer screen. 23 traffic stops of black drivers in 6 months. 0 citations issued to white drivers in the same period. His phone buzzes. Maya's bright smile fills the screen as she video calls from her high school. "Dad, I finished my college essay about justice. Want to hear it?" Jonathan's stern expression melts into pure fatherly pride. "Always, sweetheart. Read it to me." Maya clears her throat. "My father taught me that dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you carry inside, even when the world tries to strip it away." Jonathan's throat tightens. Those words echo his late brother Marcus, who died in police custody 15 years ago. The case that drove Jonathan to join the FBI's Civil Rights Division. "That's beautiful, Maya. Your grandfather would be proud." After hanging up, Jonathan slides his grandfather's vintage Rolex onto his wrist. The weight of 3 generations settles on his arm. His grandfather bought this watch with his first paycheck as a factory supervisor, back when such opportunities were rare for black men. Jonathan packs his briefcase with federal investigation files. Today's mission: meeting Oak Brook Police Chief Patricia Collins about implementing federal oversight. The department has been under FBI scrutiny for months. His black Mercedes E-Class gleams in the courthouse parking garage, a gift from his father before the cancer took him. "Success isn't about the car you drive, son," his father had said. "It's about the roads you choose to travel." The drive to Oak Brook takes 30 minutes through changing neighborhoods. Downtown Chicago's diverse energy gives way to manicured suburbs where million-dollar homes line tree-shaded streets. Oak Brook represents American prosperity at its finest, or most exclusive, depending on your perspective. The median household income hovers around $127,000. The population statistics tell their own story: 89% white, 8% Asian, 2% black, 1% Hispanic. Children's bicycles dot perfect driveways. American flags flutter from colonial-style porches. Shopping centers gleam with luxury brands and organic markets. This is where successful families build their dreams. It's also where Jonathan's investigation has uncovered a disturbing pattern. His dashboard GPS announces the turn onto Maple Street. Jonathan reduces his speed to 28 miles per hour in the 30-mile zone. His turn signals click precisely. Every traffic law was followed to perfection. He's learned to be careful in neighborhoods like this. 3 black families have moved to Oak Brook in the past year, drawn by excellent schools and low crime rates. But the local Facebook groups tell a different story. Coded language about maintaining property values and preserving neighborhood character fills the comment sections. Jonathan's investigation files contain screenshots of these posts, evidence for the federal case he's building. Police patrol cars circle these streets more frequently now. Traffic stops have increased 40% since those families arrived. The pattern is unmistakable to trained federal eyes. His Mercedes purrs past $200,000 homes with security systems and perfectly trimmed hedges. Neighbors wave politely from their garden work, the kind of surface friendliness that keeps communities peaceful. Jonathan checks his watch. The meeting with Chief Collins starts in 20 minutes. His briefcase contains federal mandates that could transform how Oak Brook police interact with residents. Constitutional policing training, bias recognition workshops, community oversight boards. Change never comes easy, especially to places that believe they don't need it. A jogger with expensive headphones nods as she passes. Two mothers push strollers, discussing soccer practice schedules. Normal suburban life continues around him, unaware that federal justice moves through their streets. Jonathan's phone displays a text from his FBI supervisor. "Remember, we need clean evidence for this case." Document everything. The irony isn't lost on him. As a federal agent investigating civil rights violations, Jonathan must be beyond reproach. One mistake, one moment of anything less than perfection, and defense attorneys will shred his credibility in court. He signals right onto Oak Avenue, maintaining exactly the speed limit. His father's voice echoes, "In this world, son, we have to be twice as good to get half as much." Today, Jonathan carries the hopes of every family his investigation will protect. The weight of federal authority rests on his shoulders, hidden beneath his perfectly pressed suit. The GPS announces his destination ahead. Time to make history. Officer Derek Mitchell adjusts his rearview mirror and spots the black Mercedes 3 blocks away. His jaw tightens as he watches the expensive sedan navigate the tree-lined streets with careful precision. "Look at this guy, Bradley," Derek mutters to his partner. "Probably casing houses for his next break-in." Officer Bradley Knox shifts in the passenger seat, eager to please his senior partner. "Should we check him out?" Derek's radio crackles with routine chatter, but his eyes stay locked on the Mercedes. In his 8 years patrolling Oak Brook, he's developed what he calls instincts about people who don't belong. "Black guy in a car worth more than my annual salary? In this neighborhood?" Derek starts the patrol car engine. Something's not right. Jonathan maintains exactly 28 miles per hour, his hands positioned at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. Every turn signal clicks precisely 3 times. His grandfather's Rolex catches the afternoon sunlight as he checks the time. The police cruiser appears in his rearview mirror, maintaining distance but clearly following. Jonathan's trained eyes recognize the pattern. He's seen it countless times in his federal investigations. "Here we go," he whispers, reaching for his phone to text his supervisor. But Derek's lights explode into action before Jonathan can type a single word. The siren's sharp blast cuts through the peaceful neighborhood like a blade. Jonathan's stomach drops, but his FBI training kicks in immediately. He signals right, pulls to the curb, and places both hands visibly on the steering wheel. Derek approaches with his hand resting on his weapon holster. His swagger screams authority, the kind that comes from years of unchallenged power in suburban streets. "License and registration," Derek barks through the partially lowered window. "And keep your hands where I can see them, boy." The word "boy" hangs in the air like a slap. Jonathan's jaw tightens, but his voice remains steady. "Officer, may I ask the reason for this stop?" Derek's face twists with irritation. "I'll ask the questions here. You just answer them." Bradley takes position on the passenger side, hand hovering near his radio. His body language mirrors his partner's aggressive stance. "Step out of the vehicle," Derek orders. "Now." Jonathan complies slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. "Officer, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." "I haven't violated any traffic laws." "That's what they all say," Derek sneers, forcing Jonathan against the car's warm hood. The metal burns through his expensive suit jacket. Mrs. Jennifer Martinez jogs past, her morning run interrupted by the commotion. She slows, then stops completely as Derek begins an aggressive pat-down of the well-dressed man. "Hands behind your head. Spread your legs wider," Derek commands, his voice carrying across the quiet street. Jonathan positions himself as ordered, maintaining his dignity despite the public humiliation. His grandfather's Rolex glints as he raises his arms. "Look at this fancy watch," Derek announces loudly. "Where'd you steal this from?" "It belonged to my grandfather," Jonathan responds calmly. "Sure it did." Derek's laugh carries no humor. "Just like this car belongs to you, right?" More neighbors emerge from their homes. A man walking his golden retriever stops to stare. Two mothers pushing strollers whisper to each other across the street. Bradley calls dispatch on his radio. "We've got a possible theft suspect on Oak Avenue, requesting backup for additional units." The words "theft suspect" echo through the radio static, loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. Jonathan closes his eyes briefly, feeling the familiar burn of injustice in his chest. "Empty your pockets," Derek orders. "Everything on the hood." Jonathan complies, placing his wallet, keys, and phone on the car's surface. Derek rifles through the wallet with exaggerated suspicion. "Jonathan Hayes," Derek reads from the driver's license. "Federal employee, huh? What kind of federal job does someone like you have?" The question drips with disbelief and contempt. Jonathan straightens his shoulders. "I work in law enforcement." Derek's laughter grows louder. "Right. And I'm the President of the United States." Bradley joins in the mockery. Maybe he's a security guard at some government building. A crowd of 15 neighbors now watches from safe distances. Most look uncomfortable, but none intervene. Their silence feels heavier than the afternoon heat. Derek discovers Jonathan's expensive briefcase in the back seat. "What's in here?" "Stolen jewelry? Drugs?" "Legal documents related to my work," Jonathan answers truthfully. "We'll see about that." Derek pops the briefcase locks, sending federal case files scattering across the asphalt. Photographs of police misconduct victims flutter in the breeze. Legal briefs with FBI letterhead mix with personal family photos. Derek kicks at the papers dismissively. "Look at all this fake government stuff," Derek announces to his audience. "These guys will print anything to look important." Jonathan watches his life's work trampled under Derek's boots. Each document represents months of investigation, families seeking justice, communities demanding change. "Officer, those are official federal documents," Jonathan says firmly. "I need to ask you to handle them with care." Derek's face darkens. "You need to ask me? You're not in any position to ask for anything." The crowd grows larger. Teenagers on bicycles join the adults. Someone's phone appears, then another, then several more. The age of social media means every police interaction becomes potential evidence. Mrs. Martinez pulls out her smartphone and begins recording. Her thumb finds the Facebook Live button. "Going live from Oak Avenue," she whispers into her phone. Police stop in progress. Derek notices the cameras but misreads the situation completely. The attention feeds his ego rather than triggering caution. "Everyone can see how we handle troublemakers in this neighborhood," Derek announces proudly. Bradley produces a small plastic baggie from his patrol car. "Found this in the vehicle," he lies smoothly. Derek examines the empty baggie with theatrical concern. "Looks like drug residue to me. We're going to need to run some tests." Jonathan's hands clench into fists behind his head. The planted evidence is textbook police misconduct, exactly what his federal investigations have documented in case after case. "That baggie didn't come from my vehicle," Jonathan states clearly for the recording phones. "That's what they all say," Derek replies. "Bradley, call for a transport unit. We're making an arrest." The words hit the crowd like electricity. Several people gasp audibly. Mrs. Martinez's livestream viewer count climbs past 50 people. Derek produces handcuffs from his belt, the metal gleaming in the sunlight. "Jonathan Hayes, you're under arrest for possession of controlled substances and obstruction of justice." "I invoke my right to remain silent and request legal counsel," Jonathan responds professionally. Derek roughly pulls Jonathan's arms behind his back. The handcuffs click shut with finality, each sound echoing across the silent street. The crowd watches in stunned disbelief as Derek begins his victory parade, forcing Jonathan to walk slowly past the gathering neighbors. The perp walk serves no legal purpose, only Derek's ego. "This is what happens when people think they're above the law," Derek announces to his captive audience. But in his jacket pocket, partially visible through the torn fabric, Jonathan's federal badge catches the light. None of the officers notice the glint of metal that will soon change everything. The arrest is complete, the humiliation total, the injustice is perfect. Derek has no idea he's just handcuffed a senior FBI agent investigating his department for civil rights violations. Derek's radio crackles with backup units responding to his call. 3 more patrol cars arrive within minutes, their flashing lights painting the quiet suburban street in alternating red and blue strobes that reflect off expensive house windows. "What do we have here, Mitchell?" Sergeant Williams steps out of his cruiser, adjusting his duty belt with practiced authority. His weathered face surveys the scene with the confidence of a 20-year veteran. "Caught a theft suspect with stolen property and drug paraphernalia," Derek announces proudly, his chest swelling with self-importance. "The vehicle's probably stolen too." Guy was acting real suspicious, driving through the neighborhood like he owned the place. Jonathan remains silent, his hands cuffed tightly behind his back. The metal cuts into his wrists, drawing thin lines of blood that stain his white shirt cuffs. But his face shows no pain. Only quiet determination burns in his eyes. "I smell marijuana coming from the vehicle." Derek lies loudly enough for the cameras to capture every word. "The strong odor of cannabis. We need to conduct a thorough search under probable cause." Bradley nods eagerly like a puppy seeking approval. "Probable cause definitely established, Sergeant." "I can smell it too." The fabricated justification sends murmurs through the growing crowd of 40-plus neighbors. Mrs. Martinez's Facebook Live viewer count has climbed past 200 people, comments flooding the screen faster than she can read them. "This is insane," types one viewer. "Someone call the mayor." "Recording everything," another comment reads. "This cop is out of control." Derek forces Jonathan to lean against the patrol car hood, spreading his legs wider with unnecessary aggression. "Don't move a muscle while we search your stolen merchandise, boy." The hot metal burns through Jonathan's expensive suit jacket as Derek begins systematically ransacking the Mercedes interior. Leather seats torn open with pocket knives. Glove compartment contents dumped onto the asphalt like garbage. Personal items scattered across the street without regard. "Look at this fancy briefcase," Derek calls out to his audience, hoisting Jonathan's federal case files above his head. "Probably stolen from some big-shot lawyer's office downtown." He dumps the contents with theatrical flair. Legal briefs flutter in the afternoon breeze like confetti. Photographs of police brutality victims land face up on the concrete, their bruised faces staring at the sky. FBI letterhead documents mix with family pictures of Jonathan's daughter Maya at her high school graduation. Derek deliberately steps on a photo of Jonathan's FBI Academy graduation ceremony. His heavy boot grinds the precious memory into the pavement, leaving dirty footprints across Jonathan's proudest moment. "Officer, those are important legal documents," Jonathan says with forced calm. "They contain sensitive information that needs proper handling." Derek whips around, his face twisted with pure rage. Spittle flies from his lips as he shouts, "Did I give you permission to speak, boy?" He grabs Jonathan's expensive silk tie, yanking it so hard the fabric tears audibly. "In this neighborhood, people like you keep their mouths shut unless spoken to by your betters." The crowd collectively gasps. Several phones capture the moment of pure racist aggression. Mrs. Martinez's live stream comments explode with outrage and disbelief from viewers across Chicago. "Someone needs to stop this," whispers an elderly man walking his golden retriever. But like the others, he doesn't intervene. Fear and social conditioning keep them passive observers. Bradley discovers Jonathan's grandfather's vintage Rolex during the aggressive pat-down. "Check out this watch, Derek. Probably worth more than both our cars combined." Derek examines the timepiece with exaggerated suspicion, holding it up to catch the sunlight. "Where'd you steal this beauty from? Some rich old white man's mansion?" "It belonged to my grandfather," Jonathan repeats, his voice steady despite the mounting humiliation. Each word carries decades of family pride. Derek's harsh laughter carries across the street like breaking glass. "Right. And I suppose he was some big-shot businessman in a three-piece suit?" "He worked in a steel factory for 43 years, Jonathan answers with quiet dignity. "Saved for months to buy that watch with his promotion money." "Factory worker with a Rolex?" Derek shakes his head mockingly, playing to his audience. "You people really think we're that stupid, don't you?" The racist undertone hits the crowd like a physical slap. Several neighbors look away uncomfortably, their guilt written across their faces. But their silence enables the escalating abuse to continue unchallenged. Derek removes the watch from Jonathan's wrist with deliberate roughness, twisting the metal band until it scratches skin. "This is evidence now. We'll make sure it gets returned to its rightful owner." "That watch is with its rightful owner," Jonathan responds with steel in his voice. Derek's face darkens like a thundercloud. "What did I say about keeping your big mouth shut?" He shoves Jonathan harder against the car hood, the handcuffs cutting deeper into already bleeding wrists. Fresh blood stains the expensive suit jacket. Bradley laughs nervously, caught between admiration for his partner's dominance and growing unease about their actions. "Search the trunk thoroughly," Derek orders, his authority absolute. "Guys like this always hide the good stuff in the back compartments." The Mercedes trunk pops open with a soft electronic hum, revealing Jonathan's gym bag, emergency federal credentials kit, and personal belongings. Derek dumps everything onto the street without ceremony, treating each item like contaminated evidence. Athletic clothes mix with legal documents. Jonathan's FBI identification holder lands near a storm drain, so close to discovery yet invisible to Derek's arrogance-blinded eyes. Sergeant Williams examines the scattered contents with growing professional interest. "What's this federal ID case, Mitchell?" Derek grabs the leather credentials holder before Williams can examine it properly. "Probably fake government identification. These con artists love pretending to be federal agents or lawyers." Jonathan's official FBI badge and identification remain hidden inside the case, mere inches from revelation. The irony burns through his chest like acid. "Let's run his plates through the system," Bradley suggests, eager to contribute something useful to the arrest. Derek keys the Mercedes license number into his patrol car computer terminal. The screen displays registration information matching Jonathan's driver's license exactly, down to the middle initial and current address. "Registered to the suspect," Derek announces to the crowd. "But that doesn't mean anything." Could be a long-term theft situation. These guys are getting more sophisticated with their scams. The increasingly desperate justifications reveal Derek's determination to find Jonathan guilty of something, anything, regardless of contradictory evidence. His reputation depends on this arrest being legitimate. Mrs. Martinez's live stream has reached 800 viewers. Comments pour in from across the metropolitan area as the video gets shared and reshared on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram platforms. "This is a civil rights violation," types one legal expert viewer. "Someone needs to call the FBI immediately." Already trending on Twitter, another comment reads, "$sign Oakbrook police abuse is blowing up." If only they knew they were watching an FBI agent being illegally arrested, Mrs. Martinez thinks, continuing to broadcast the escalating confrontation to her growing audience. Derek produces the small plastic baggie Bradley planted during the initial search. Found this suspicious substance under the driver's seat. He lies directly to the cameras. Jonathan's jaw muscles clench visibly. That baggie was never in my vehicle. It's planted evidence. Sure it wasn't, Derek replies with theatrical disbelief. Just like the expensive watch isn't stolen, and the luxury car isn't stolen, right? He holds the empty baggie up to the afternoon light with scientific precision. Looks like cocaine residue to me. We'll need comprehensive lab testing to confirm the exact substance. The planted evidence represents everything Jonathan has investigated in dozens of federal civil rights cases. Corrupt officers manufacturing probable cause to justify illegal arrests of minority citizens. Field test this immediately, Derek orders Bradley, producing a drug testing kit from his patrol car's equipment compartment. Bradley fumbles with the testing materials, his hands shaking slightly. The deception makes him visibly uncomfortable, but opposing Derek's authority seems impossible. Derek, Sergeant Williams interjects quietly, stepping closer. Maybe we should slow down and... I've got this situation completely under control, Derek cuts him off sharply. This is exactly the kind of criminal activity that residents have been calling and complaining about. 4 more neighbors join the growing crowd of spectators. Teenagers with smartphones capture every moment from multiple angles. The incident is being documented more thoroughly than most federal crime scenes. Derek forces Jonathan into a humiliating perp walk toward the transport vehicle. Each step is calculated for maximum public embarrassment and personal degradation. Take a real good look, everyone, Derek announces to his captive audience with obvious satisfaction. This is what happens when criminals think expensive clothes and fancy cars make them respectable citizens. Jonathan walks with his head held high despite the handcuffs, torn clothing, and bleeding wrists. His innate dignity remains intact even as Derek systematically destroys his public reputation. You people always think you're so much better than the rest of us hard-working Americans, Derek continues his racist commentary for the cameras. But you all end up in handcuffs just like any other common street criminal. The crowd watches in stunned, uncomfortable silence as Derek loads Jonathan into the patrol car like a hunting trophy. Triumph and vindication radiate from every gesture and facial expression. Derek's moment of ultimate victory is about to become his career's final devastating act. Derek slams the patrol car door with satisfied finality, sealing Jonathan inside the cage-like rear compartment. Through the reinforced window, Jonathan's calm eyes meet Derek's triumphant gaze with unsettling composure. Processing time, Derek announces to Bradley, pulling out his arrest paperwork. Grand theft auto, possession of controlled substances, obstruction of justice. This guy's looking at serious prison time. Jonathan shifts forward in the cramped back seat, his voice cutting through the metal barrier with quiet authority. Officer Mitchell, I need to inform you of something legally required. Derek doesn't look up from his paperwork, pen scratching across official forms. Save your sob story for the judge, criminal. Maybe he'll take pity on you. This is not a request, Jonathan continues, his tone shifting subtly. Federal law requires me to identify myself to local law enforcement. Bradley glances nervously between his partner and the prisoner. Something in Jonathan's voice has changed. Less victim, more authority figure. I am Special Agent Jonathan Hayes, Federal Bureau of Investigation Civil Rights Division, Jonathan states clearly for every phone camera still recording. Derek's pen stops moving. His laugh starts confident but wavers slightly. Right, and I'm the Director of Homeland Security. You people will say anything to avoid consequences. Jonathan reaches slowly toward his torn jacket pocket, his movements deliberate and professional. I'm going to show you my federal credentials now. Keep your hands where I can see them, Derek barks, but uncertainty creeps into his voice. Jonathan produces his official FBI badge and identification wallet, holding them against the window where Derek can see clearly. The gold shield catches sunlight, its eagle emblem gleaming with undeniable authenticity. Derek's face transforms from smug confidence to confused panic in real time. Color drains from his cheeks as he stares at the federal credentials. That's gotta be fake, Derek stammers, but his voice lacks conviction. Bradley examines the badge through the window, his eyes widening with recognition. Derek, this looks completely real. The holographic security features, the serial numbers. Mrs. Martinez's live stream explodes with viewer comments as the truth spreads across social media platforms in real time. Holy shit, he's actually FBI! This cop just arrested a federal agent. Derek is so screwed. Sergeant Williams approaches the patrol car, drawn by the commotion. He takes one look at Jonathan's credentials and immediately grabs his radio. Dispatch, I need immediate verification of FBI Special Agent Jonathan Hayes, badge number 2847, priority request. The radio crackles with static before dispatch responds. Confirmed. Special Agent Jonathan Hayes, 18-year veteran, currently assigned to the Civil Rights Division. Is there a problem, Sergeant? The words hit Derek like physical blows. His hand trembles as he unlocks the patrol car door, reality crashing down around his carefully constructed arrest. Jonathan steps out of the vehicle with renewed dignity, straightening his torn jacket. The handcuffs remain, but his entire demeanor has shifted from victim to federal law enforcement professional. Officers, Jonathan says calmly, pulling out his smartphone. You have just committed multiple federal civil rights violations under color of law. This incident is now under federal investigation. Derek's mouth opens and closes wordlessly, like a fish gasping for air. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the cool afternoon temperature. Agent Hayes, Derek finally manages, his voice cracking. This was just a terrible misunderstanding. We were following standard procedure for suspicious illegal search without probable cause, Jonathan interrupts, his FBI training taking over. Planted evidence, false arrest, excessive force, racial profiling. Each carries federal felony charges. The crowd's energy completely transforms. What began as uncomfortable witnessing of injustice became a celebration of poetic justice. Applause breaks out among the neighbors. Get those handcuffs off him right now, shouts an elderly woman who had remained silent throughout the abuse. Derek fumbles with his keys, hands shaking so violently he drops them twice. Bradley steps forward to help, equally panicked about their situation. Please don't file federal charges, Derek begs as he removes the handcuffs. I have a family, a mortgage. This job is all I know. Jonathan rubs his bleeding wrists, examining the cuts caused by the overly tight restraints. You should have considered those consequences before violating the constitutional rights of citizens. He speed dials his FBI supervisor while collecting his scattered belongings. Supervisor Carter, this is Agent Hayes. I need the evidence response team at Oak Avenue in Oak Brook immediately. Multiple federal civil rights violations committed against me during my investigation. Sergeant Williams immediately suspends both officers pending federal investigation. Their badges and weapons are secured as potential evidence in federal crimes. The neighborhood transforms into a crime scene as Jonathan takes control. Yellow tape appears. FBI vehicles arrive within minutes, sirens wailing across the suburban landscape. Mrs. Martinez's live stream reaches 10,000 viewers as news stations pick up the story. Number sign Federal Badge Justice begins trending nationally within the hour. Derek pleads desperately with Jonathan, tears streaming down his face. Please, Agent Hayes. I didn't know who you were. This was all just a big mistake. Jonathan's response carries the weight of federal authority and decades of investigating similar cases. The mistake was thinking your badge gave you the right to abuse citizens based on their race. Local news vans arrive as Derek and Bradley are escorted from the scene, their law enforcement careers effectively over. The racist officer who thought he was arresting a car thief has just destroyed his entire life. Jonathan calls his daughter Maya to explain why she'll see her father on the evening news. Then he returns to the scattered federal case files, now evidence in his own civil rights violation. The hunter has become the hunted. The oppressor now faces federal prosecution. Justice has arrived wearing an FBI badge that Derek was too arrogant to discover. Power has shifted completely, and there's no going back. Derek's hands shake uncontrollably as he removes the handcuffs from Jonathan's bleeding wrists. The metal clicks open with a sound that echoes like thunder across the silent street. "Agent Hayes, please!" Derek's voice cracks with desperation. "This was all just a terrible misunderstanding. I was following department protocol for suspicious vehicles." Jonathan examines his torn suit jacket and bloodied wrists with clinical detachment. "Officer Mitchell, illegal search and planted evidence are not department protocol anywhere in the United States." The crowd of neighbors watches in stunned silence as the power dynamic completely reverses. Children who had been frightened now point excitedly at the real police cars arriving with FBI agents inside. Sergeant Williams immediately steps forward, his face grave with the realization of what his officers have done. "Agent Hayes, I'm placing both officers on immediate suspension pending federal investigation." "No, Sergeant, please," Bradley pleads, his career flashing before his eyes. "Derek made all the decisions. I was just following his lead." Derek whips around to face his partner with pure betrayal burning in his eyes. "You participated willingly, Bradley. Don't try to throw me under the bus now." Jonathan pulls out his smartphone and speed dials his FBI supervisor. "Supervisor Carter, this is Special Agent Hayes. I need the evidence response team at my location immediately for multiple federal civil rights violations." "Are you injured, Jonathan?" comes the concerned voice through the speaker. "Minor injuries. The important thing is we now have documented evidence of the pattern we've been investigating." Mrs. Martinez continues live streaming, her viewer count exploding past 5,000 people. Comments flood her screen faster than her phone can display them. "This is the best plot twist ever. That racist cop just destroyed his whole life. FBI agents were investigating them the whole time." 3 FBI vehicles arrive within 10 minutes, their sirens cutting through the suburban afternoon like electronic screams. Special Agent Rebecca Carter steps out of the lead car, her expression deadly serious. "Agent Hayes, what's your status?" she calls across the yellow tape that's already being strung around the crime scene. "Fully operational, Supervisor. Multiple federal violations captured on camera by civilian witnesses. Derek attempts one final desperate plea as FBI agents begin photographing the evidence. Agent Hayes, I have 2 kids and a mortgage. This job is my whole life. Please don't destroy my family over a mistake." Jonathan's response carries the weight of every civil rights victim he's represented. "You should have considered your family before you decided to plant evidence and violate citizens' constitutional rights." Agent Carter approaches Derek with federal handcuffs. "Officer Mitchell, you're being detained pending investigation for violations under Section 242 of Title 18. The irony is not lost on anyone present. Derek, who had paraded Jonathan in handcuffs 30 minutes earlier, now faces the same humiliation from federal agents. "This can't be happening," Derek whispers as the cuffs click shut around his wrists. "This is all wrong." "I'm a police officer." "So is Agent Hayes," Carter responds coldly. "The difference is he respects the Constitution." Bradley attempts to distance himself from his partner's actions. "Agent Hayes, I want to cooperate fully with your investigation. Derek pressured me into going along with his decisions." Jonathan examines Bradley's body camera footage on Carter's tablet. "Your cooperation will be noted, Officer Knox, but participation in civil rights violations carries consequences regardless of who initiated them." Sergeant Williams confiscates both officers' badges, weapons, and patrol vehicles as potential evidence. "You're both suspended without pay effective immediately." The neighborhood buzzes with excitement as news vans arrive from 3 different television stations. Derek's arrest becomes the lead story on Chicago's evening news within 2 hours. "Federal agent racially profiled and illegally arrested by suburban police," reads the breaking news banner. Derek's wife receives frantic phone calls from neighbors who saw her husband's arrest on social media. His children will return from school to find their father's mugshot trending on Twitter. Mrs. Martinez ends her live stream after 47 minutes of footage that will become evidence in federal court. The video has been shared over 15,000 times across multiple platforms. "Thank you for documenting this," Jonathan tells her personally. "Your courage to record everything will help ensure justice." The scattered federal case files are carefully collected as evidence by the FBI's Evidence Response Team. Each document now serves dual purposes, investigating police misconduct and proving Derek's destruction of federal property. Agent Carter coordinates with the U.S. Attorney's Office about federal criminal charges. "We're looking at civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, destruction of federal property, and conspiracy charges." Derek sits in the federal detention vehicle, watching his career and reputation destroyed in real time. Local news interviews neighbors who witnessed his racist behavior and abuse of power. By evening, #Oakbrook police abuse trends nationally on social media. Derek's name becomes synonymous with police racism and federal justice. Jonathan calls his daughter Maya to explain why she'll see her father on the news. "Dad, are you okay?" she asks with concern. "I'm fine, sweetheart." Today, justice worked exactly as it should. The immediate consequences are swift and devastating for Derek. But this is only the beginning of his legal nightmare. Federal prosecutors are just getting started. 6 weeks later, the federal courthouse in downtown Chicago buzzes with media attention as cameras line the marble steps. Derek Mitchell's federal trial has become a national symbol of police accountability and civil rights enforcement. U.S. Attorney Patricia Valdez addresses the packed courtroom with unwavering authority. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show that Defendant Mitchell committed systematic violations of citizens' constitutional rights under color of law." Derek sits at the defense table in an ill-fitting suit, his police pension frozen and legal bills mounting. His attorney, Marcus Klein, attempts damage control with a desperate strategy. "My client made errors in judgment, but criminal intent was never present," Klein argues weakly. "Officer Mitchell believed he was protecting his community from suspicious activity." The prosecution's case unfolds like a masterpiece of federal law enforcement. Agent Carter presents FBI data analysis revealing Derek's pattern of targeting minority drivers over 3 years. 47 traffic stops of black motorists, she testifies, pointing to color-coded charts. 0 stops of white drivers in similar circumstances. The statistical impossibility of random enforcement is clear. Jonathan takes the witness stand wearing his FBI uniform, ribbons and commendations displayed across his chest. The jury's attention focuses completely on his testimony. Officer Mitchell's behavior that day was not an isolated incident, Jonathan states clearly. It represented systematic civil rights violations that my investigation had been documenting for months. Derek's defense attorney attempts cross-examination, but finds no weakness in Jonathan's professional testimony. Every answer demonstrates federal expertise and unshakable credibility. "Agent Hayes, isn't it possible my client simply made a mistake?" Klein asks desperately. "Planting evidence is not a mistake, counselor. It's a federal felony." The courtroom gasps as Jonathan details each violation with prosecutor precision. Body camera footage plays on large screens, showing Derek's racist commentary and evidence planting. Mrs. Martinez testifies about her live stream footage, which has been viewed over 2 million times worldwide. "I've never seen anything so blatantly racist from police officers," she tells the jury. The prosecution calls Derek's previous victims to testify. Marcus Thompson, the Reverend, describes his own traffic stop 3 months earlier. "Officer Mitchell used the exact same tactics," Thompson testifies. "False probable cause, planted evidence, racial slurs. The pattern was unmistakable." Dr. Sarah Williams, a black pediatrician, recounts her humiliating arrest during a medical emergency call. "He handcuffed me in front of my patients while I was trying to save a child's life." Each testimony builds an overwhelming case of systematic racism and abuse of power. Derek's pattern of behavior spans years, not months. The federal prosecution introduces evidence of Derek's social media posts filled with racist memes and anti-civil rights commentary. Screenshots show his membership in white supremacist Facebook groups. These posts reveal defendant Mitchell's true beliefs about racial minorities, prosecutor James Rodriguez explains to the jury. His actions were motivated by hate, not law enforcement. Derek's own body camera footage becomes his greatest enemy. Audio analysis reveals racist slurs and constitutional violations in case after case. Bradley Knox takes the witness stand as a cooperating witness, his plea agreement requiring complete honesty. Derek told me that these people needed to be kept in line through aggressive policing. Did Officer Mitchell use racial slurs regularly? The prosecutor asks. Daily, Bradley answers, avoiding Derek's furious glare. He said it was our job to maintain the neighborhood's standards. Expert witnesses testify about systemic racism in suburban police departments. Dr. Angela Davis, a criminal justice professor, explains the federal civil rights framework. When officers use their authority to target citizens based on race, they violate the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, she educates the jury. The defense's case crumbles under federal scrutiny. Derek's police supervisor testifies that no training justified his actions on Oak Avenue. Officer Mitchell's behavior violated every policy in our department manual, Chief Collins admits under oath. There was no legitimate law enforcement purpose for his actions. Character witnesses for Derek fail to overcome the overwhelming evidence. His pastor's testimony about community service rings hollow against video evidence of racism. Jonathan's closing testimony devastates Derek's remaining credibility. My grandfather taught me that a badge represents service, not supremacy. Officer Mitchell betrayed everything law enforcement should stand for. The jury deliberates for only 3 hours before returning with unanimous guilty verdicts on all federal charges. Derek's face crumbles as the word guilty echoes through the courtroom 8 times. Federal Judge Maria Santos addresses Derek before sentencing with judicial authority that fills the courtroom. Your actions represent the worst abuse of police power in my 30 years on the bench. Derek's wife sobs in the gallery as his children hide their faces from media cameras. His defense attorney's plea for mercy falls on unsympathetic judicial ears. The court sentences defendant Mitchell to 51 months in federal prison, Judge Santos announces. Additionally, a $50,000 fine and permanent disqualification from law enforcement employment. Derek's legs buckle as federal marshals approach with handcuffs. The same restraints he placed on Jonathan now secure his own wrists as he's led away to federal custody. The courtroom erupts in applause from civil rights advocates and community members. Jonathan's daughter Maya watches proudly from the gallery as justice finally prevails. Outside the courthouse, Jonathan addresses a crowd of reporters and supporters. This verdict sends a clear message that no one is above the law, regardless of their badge or uniform. The Department of Justice announces a comprehensive investigation into Oak Brook Police Department, leading to a federal consent decree requiring systematic reforms. Chief Collins resigns in disgrace within a week of Derek's conviction. Sergeant Williams faces disciplinary action for failing to supervise his officers properly. The Oak Brook City Council establishes a civilian oversight board with subpoena power and independent investigative authority. Federal monitors will oversee police reform for 5 years minimum. Derek's civil trial results in a $750,000 judgment against him personally. His house goes into foreclosure as legal bills and damages destroy his financial life. Bradley Knox pleads guilty to lesser federal charges and receives 18 months probation with mandatory bias training and community service requirements. Jonathan's federal investigation expands to encompass 12 suburban police departments with similar patterns of racial profiling and civil rights violations. The case became a landmark precedent for federal civil rights prosecutions. Law schools add Derek's conviction to their curriculum as a cautionary tale about police misconduct. Derek begins serving his sentence at a federal facility where his status as a disgraced police officer makes him a target. No sympathy exists for corrupt cops among federal inmates. Jonathan receives a commendation from the FBI director for his courage and professionalism under extreme circumstances. His case leads to enhanced civil rights training nationwide. Justice has been served completely and publicly. Derek's racism destroyed not only his own life, but created lasting change for communities nationwide. The federal system worked exactly as intended. 6 months after Derek's federal conviction, Jonathan stands beside his younger brother's gravestone in Graceland Cemetery. Fresh flowers rest against the polished granite marker that reads, "Marcus Hayes, beloved son and brother." "We did it, Marcus," Jonathan whispers, placing his hand on the cold stone. "We finally got one of them." The autumn wind carries golden leaves across the peaceful cemetery as Jonathan reflects on how his brother's death 15 years ago led him to the FBI's Civil Rights Division. Marcus had been pulled over for driving while black in a luxury car just like Jonathan. But Marcus didn't have a federal badge to save him. The officer's excessive force stopped his heart during the arrest. Jonathan's phone buzzes with a text from Maya at Northwestern University. "Dad, my criminology professor showed your case in class today." Everyone stood up and clapped. Pride swells in Jonathan's chest as he reads his daughter's message. Maya's college essay about justice and dignity earned her admission to law school early admission programs at Harvard and Yale. "Grandpa would be so proud," Jonathan says aloud, touching his grandfather's Rolex on his wrist. The watch survived Derek's racism and now represents 3 generations of resilience. The drive back to Oakbrook takes Jonathan through transformed neighborhoods. New community police partnership signs mark each block, symbols of the federal reforms implemented after Derek's conviction. Officer Sarah Rodriguez, Derek's replacement, waves respectfully as Jonathan passes her patrol car. The new diversity training and community oversight have created genuine relationships between police and residents. Mrs. Martinez approaches Jonathan at the local coffee shop, her face beaming with recognition. "Agent Hayes!" My live stream of that day has been viewed 5 million times now. People still message me saying it changed their perspective on police accountability. "Your courage to document everything made the difference," Jonathan responds warmly. "Without that footage, Derek might have gotten away with it." The Oakbrook Community Center displays a permanent exhibit about civil rights and police reform. Jonathan's case anchors the presentation, educating visitors about constitutional protections and federal oversight. Local high school students interview Jonathan for their civics projects. "How did you stay so calm when Officer Mitchell was abusing you?" asks 17-year-old Marcus Thompson, the Reverend's grandson. "My grandfather taught me that dignity is something no one can take from you," Jonathan answers. "But justice is something we must fight for together every single day." Derek serves his federal sentence at a minimum security facility in Ohio. Fellow inmates know about his racist policing, making his incarceration a daily reminder of consequences for civil rights violations. His wife divorced him 6 months into his sentence. His children changed their last names to escape the stigma of their father's crimes. Derek's choices destroyed every relationship he valued. Bradley Knox works security at a suburban shopping mall, forever marked by his participation in federal crimes. His law enforcement career ended with a guilty plea and federal conviction record. The Oakbrook Police Department operates under federal oversight with monthly audits and bias training requirements. Community trust has improved dramatically since Derek's removal. Jonathan's federal investigation expanded nationally, leading to reforms in 47 police departments across 12 states. The Hayes Protocol now guides federal civil rights enforcement nationwide. Young FBI agents study Jonathan's case during their academy training. His professional response under extreme stress becomes the gold standard for undercover civil rights investigations. Jonathan speaks at police academies about constitutional policing and racial bias. His message resonates with officers committed to legitimate law enforcement rather than racist power trips. "This badge doesn't make me special," Jonathan tells new recruits. "It makes me responsible for protecting everyone's rights, regardless of their race or social status." The federal civil rights case resulted in a $2.3 million settlement fund for Derek's previous victims. Families received compensation and counseling for their traumatic experiences. National civil rights organizations used Jonathan's case to advocate for police accountability legislation. Congressional hearings feature his testimony about suburban police racism. Derek's conviction inspired similar federal prosecutions across the country. Racist officers can no longer hide behind qualified immunity when their violations are captured on camera. Jonathan maintains his federal investigation work, knowing that Derek represents just one example of systemic problems requiring systematic solutions. Statistics reveal the ongoing challenge. Black drivers remain 3 times more likely to be searched during traffic stops. Federal enforcement must continue expanding to protect constitutional rights. Jonathan's story proves that individual courage can catalyze institutional change. But lasting reform requires sustained community engagement and federal oversight. The final scene shows Jonathan training new FBI agents on civil rights enforcement. Derek's mugshot displayed as a cautionary example of police corruption. Real change happens when good people refuse to stay silent, Jonathan tells his trainees. Your badge gives you the power to protect or to oppress. Choose wisely. The screen displays powerful statistics. Derek's case led to 47 police department reforms, 300 officer suspensions, and 12 federal convictions for civil rights violations. Call to action. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to see that justice can prevail over racism. Hit subscribe for more stories of courage overcoming corruption. Comment below. What would you do if you witnessed police misconduct in your community? Would you have the courage to intervene or record evidence? Follow us for updates on civil rights cases that need your attention and support. Final provocative question. How many Derek Mitchells are patrolling your neighborhood right now? And what will it take for every community to demand accountability from those sworn to protect? Are you ready to be the person with the camera when justice needs witnesses? Real change starts with ordinary people who refuse to stay silent when they see injustice. The choice is yours.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.
Look at that whale trying to fit in a human restaurant, Brian sneers, loud enough for everyone to hear. Travis's fork freezes mid-air. Silence crashes through the diner. Every head turns. The 4 businessmen circle their prey. Brian stands, smartphone raised, capturing Travis's humiliation. Perfect specimen for my wildlife collection, he announces. Wadded napkins pelt Travis's back. One hits his head. The suits roar with laughter. Travis sets down his fork with military precision. His massive shoulders tense. His eyes calculating patient, dangerous scan each man's face. The waitress steps forward, then hesitates. Other diners look away, ashamed but silent. Brian flicks a sugar packet that lands in Travis's coffee. Whale watching is my new hobby, boys. Little did they know, the man they chose to humiliate had faced worse enemies than them and won. 30 minutes earlier, Travis enters the diner with a grace that belies his size. His movements are deliberate, efficient, hints of military discipline embedded in civilian life. Morning, Travis, the hostess calls. Your usual corner? He nods, settling into the familiar booth that accommodates his frame. The morning light catches the faded scar on his right hand as he unfolds his napkin. The bell above the door chimes. 4 men in tailored suits stride in, radiating entitlement. Brian leads, scanning the diner like he's appraising property. Anywhere but near the kitchen, he tells the hostess, then freezes. His eyes lock on Travis. Actually, that section looks good. Gloria, the waitress, approaches Travis with a genuine smile. Coffee black extra hot? You know me too well, Travis answers, his voice deep but gentle. From the businessmen's table, Brian nudges Alex. Check out the big guy. Think he's ordered the entire menu yet? Alex snickers. Probably has a separate stomach for dessert. Travis appears absorbed in his tablet, but his posture shifts subtly. On screen, a military news site announces a veterans recognition ceremony before he swipes to financial reports with complex figures. Just closed the Harrington deal, Brian announces loudly. 8 figures, gentlemen. Drinks on me tonight. Their conversation grows progressively louder. Words like discipline and self-control punctuate their laughter, aimed in Travis's direction. Gloria delivers Travis's modest breakfast 2 eggs, wheat toast, no hash browns. He thanks her with quiet dignity. Surprised the plate doesn't break under all that food, Dominic stage whispers, causing Paul to laugh nervously. Travis's eyes briefly meet Gloria's. A silent understanding passes between them. This isn't the first time he's weathered such storms. He cuts his eggs with the precision of someone who's learned patience in the hardest circumstances. Each bite measured, each moment calculated. The businessmen order mimosas to celebrate. Brian raises his glass toward Travis. To health and fitness, am I right? Travis sips his coffee, allowing the disrespect to wash over him. Not yet. Not time. The laughter from the businessmen's table cuts through the diner like a knife, and all eyes turn to see what happens next. Brian rises from his chair, smoothing his silk tie. Need some napkins, he announces, eyeing Travis's table. He saunters over, deliberately bumping Travis's arm. Coffee splashes onto the table. Oh, sorry, big guy, Brian says, emphasizing each word. Didn't see you there, which is pretty impressive given how much space you take up. Travis looks up. His eyes assess Brian with the calm calculation of someone who's evaluated actual threats in combat zones. No problem, Travis replies, voice controlled. Gloria rushes over with towels. Let me get you a fresh cup, Travis. Why bother? Brian interjects. Probably saving him some calories anyway, right, buddy? He claps Travis's shoulder with false camaraderie. Thank you, Gloria, Travis says firmly, ignoring Brian. I appreciate it. Brian returns to his table, strutting. Did you see that? Barely reacted. Probably too winded from eating. The men laugh louder, emboldened by Travis's restraint. They interpret his composure as weakness, his dignity as defeat. Travis continues eating methodically. Only the tightening of his jaw betrays his awareness. He reaches for his phone, typing quickly. Situation at Westside Diner. Nothing urgent, but interesting. From the kitchen doorway, Frank, the owner, surveys the dining room. His eyes narrow at the businessmen before finding Travis. They exchange a subtle nod before Frank disappears back into the kitchen. A young couple sits nearby, the woman leaning forward. Someone should say something, she whispers. Her partner squeezes her hand. Don't get involved, it's not our business. Travis catches this exchange. Disappointment flickers across his face, replaced immediately by resolve. Alex's voice carries across the diner. I bet he's on disability. Tax dollars at work, feeding the... Another round, Brian cuts in, signaling Gloria. We're celebrating how successful people live. Travis wipes his mouth deliberately, folding the napkin with precise corners. His phone buzzes with a response. He reads it, then checks his watch. The battle lines are drawn. With each passing minute, the businessmen grow bolder, unaware they're crossing lines that can never be uncrossed. Brian's table clinks mimosa glasses for the 3rd time. Their voices grow louder, inhibitions dissolving with each sip. This calls for documentation, Alex slurs, pulling out his phone. He aims it toward Travis, pretending to film the wall behind him. Just capturing the ambiance. Brian stands, straightening his jacket. Time for some man-on-the-street wisdom. He approaches Travis's table, his colleagues watching like spectators at a blood sport. Excuse me, sir, Brian announces with exaggerated politeness. We're preparing a corporate retreat on America's health challenges. Would you mind sharing some personal insights? Travis sets his fork down with military precision, his eyes calculating, measuring take Brian's measure completely. "I'm trying to enjoy my breakfast," Travis says quietly. Brian presses further, invading Travis's space. "Let me guess, former football player? Before..." He gestures at Travis's body. "Before letting yourself go." He places his hand heavily on Travis's shoulder, squeezing with false friendliness. The pressure is deliberate, meant to emphasize power. Travis removes Brian's hand with a simple, efficient movement. No wasted energy, no aggression. Just the practiced motion of someone who's removed more dangerous things. "Don't touch me," Travis says. His voice remains level, but something in its tone makes Gloria pause across the room, coffee pot suspended mid-pour. Other diners have abandoned all pretense of not watching. Some look uncomfortable, others shamefully entertained. Dominic approaches, phone held high. "We're doing man-on-the-street interviews about fitness goals," he announces, red-faced with alcohol and excitement. Travis looks directly into the camera lens. "Turn that off." "Just having some fun," Dominic replies, continuing to film. Brian positions himself to block Travis's exit from the booth. "Why so serious, big man? We're all friends here." Travis checks his watch deliberately. His phone screen lights up with a message. 5 minutes out. "I'd like to leave now," Travis states. "What's the rush?" Brian leans closer. "Share your wisdom. How many calories in that breakfast? 1,000? 2? Paul hangs back, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Brian, maybe we should..." "Shh," Brian cuts him off. "The big man's about to speak." Travis sits perfectly still. His breathing remains measured, controlled. Nothing in his expression betrays the calculations happening behind his eyes. 30 seconds, Travis says softly. "Until what?" Brian laughs. "You finish another plate?" Alex joins them, filming with his phone now, too. "This is gold. Corporate will love this team-building exercise." Travis glances toward the door, then back at Brian. Something shifts in his posture, subtle, almost imperceptible. The change from civilian patience to military readiness. Brian mistakes this for submission. "Maybe we should order him dessert. On us. A reward for being such a good sport." The businessmen laugh, except for Paul, who takes a step back, sensing something the others miss. Something in Travis's eyes changes, a soldier's calm replacing the civilian's patience. Travis rises with unexpected fluidity. "Excuse me," he states, navigating past the businessmen without touching them. He moves toward the restroom, ignoring the exaggerated imitations of his gait behind him. "Watch out, building's gonna shake," Brian calls after him. Inside the restroom's privacy, Travis stands tall. He pulls out his phone and dials. "James, you got my location?" His voice transforms, authoritative, commanding. "Good. No, don't come in yet. Just be ready." He splashes water on his face, studying his reflection. The mirror shows more than a large man, it reveals discipline etched in every feature. A brief flash of memory. Travis in crisp marine dress blues, standing at attention while a general pins a purple heart to his chest. The memory expands, revealing a battlefield. Travis dragging 2 wounded Marines to safety under heavy fire. An explosion. Pain. He straightens his shirt. "Not today," he whispers to himself. Meanwhile, Brian holds court at their table, plotting the next act of humiliation. "When he comes back, we should all stand and salute," Brian suggests, mimicking a mock salute. "The general of the buffet line!" Alex and Dominic laugh appreciatively. Paul stares into his mimosa. "Maybe we should ease up," Paul suggests quietly. "What?" Brian challenges. "It's just jokes. Not our fault if some people can't control their appetites." In the kitchen, Gloria speaks urgently with Frank. "Those suits are harassing Travis," she reports. "Should we call someone?" Frank wipes his hands on his apron. "Travis Hampton doesn't need our protection." You know him? Gloria asks. Veterans events, Frank nods. Trust me, those idiots have no idea who they're messing with. Outside the diner, a black SUV with tinted windows pulls up. A man in a tailored suit exits, scanning the surroundings before speaking into his wrist microphone. He remains positioned by the vehicle, watchful. Travis returns to his table. A crude caricature drawn on a napkin awaits him. An elephant in a chair with caution, wide load, scrawled beneath it. He folds the napkin carefully, tucking it into his pocket as evidence. His face betrays nothing as he resumes eating. Gloria brings his check with a handwritten note at the bottom. On the house, Frank says Semper Fi. Travis nods in acknowledgement, eyes conveying silent gratitude. Brian's table erupts in fresh laughter as Paul reluctantly demonstrates how Travis walks. The mockery has become a performance, feeding on itself. Travis checks his watch again. The deadline approaches. His phone buzzes once more. Perimeter secure, the text reads. He takes a final sip of coffee. Years of military training have taught him strategy: when to endure, when to engage, when to wait for reinforcements. The businessmen have no idea they're not the predators in this scenario. They've mistaken Travis's restraint for weakness, his calm for surrender. They don't recognize the tactical assessment happening behind his eyes. Travis reaches for his wallet with deliberate slowness. The time for patience is ending. The businessmen had no idea they weren't just harassing a man, they were awakening a warrior. Brian abandons all subtlety. He gestures to his colleagues, and they surround Travis's booth like wolves circling wounded prey. Their expensive suits form a wall of privilege and entitlement. Brian plants both palms on the table, invading Travis's space. Alcohol and arrogance fuel his confidence. My friend Dominic here is a personal trainer, Brian announces loudly enough for the entire diner to hear. He's offering you a free consultation. Special charity case. Travis remains seated, his eyes moving from face to face. The assessment is quick, professional, the instinctive threat evaluation of a combat veteran. I'm finished with my meal, Travis says evenly. I'd like to leave. Alex shifts to block the exit path. The consultation is mandatory, big guy. We're concerned citizens. Gloria approaches with determination, coffee pot gripped like a weapon. Dominic cuts her off with a dismissive wave. Employee issues stay with employees, he tells her with a condescending smile. The entire diner watches now. An elderly man begins to stand from his booth, face flushed with anger. Harold, don't, his wife whispers, tugging him back. You'll have another episode. Travis's phone buzzes silently. A text illuminates the screen. In position, your call. Brian taps his platinum credit card against the table. I'll even pay for your meal. Consider it my contribution to public health. Travis looks at his watch, a deliberate, measured movement. You have 30 seconds to step aside. The businessmen exchange amused glances, interpreting the statement as empty bravado from someone they perceive as powerless. Or what? Alex challenges. You'll sit on us? Brian laughs, but something in Travis's unwavering gaze makes his smile falter momentarily. 20 seconds, Travis counts. He's keeping track of the seconds until his next meal, Dominic jokes, but his voice lacks conviction. Frank emerges from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder. He watches the situation with the calculated patience of someone who knows what's coming. Travis remains perfectly still, but energy radiates from him, the coiled readiness of a combat veteran who has survived worse confrontations than this. 10 seconds, he states calmly. As Travis counted down in his head, years of military discipline held back the storm that was about to break over the unsuspecting bullies. Brian straightens his posture, mimicking a drill sergeant. Stand up, recruit, he barks, performance for his audience. Time for inspection. His colleagues laugh on cue, creating theater for the captive diner audience. Phones record from multiple angles now. Travis remains seated, expression unreadable. His eyes lock with Brian's, unwavering, assessing. Something in that gaze makes Brian falter before doubling down. "I said stand up!" Brian places his hand on Travis's shoulder again, fingers digging with unmistakable aggression. "That's twice you've put hands on me without permission," Travis states quietly. The words carry weight beyond their simple meaning. Outside the diner, the suited man by the SUV speaks into his wrist mic. Two more black vehicles glide silently into position, boxing in the businessmen's luxury cars. Gloria hurries to Frank, who watches the scene unfold with knowing calm. "This is getting bad," she whispers. Frank makes a decision, reaching for the phone behind the counter. He dials quickly, speaks 3 words. "It's happening now." Brian leans closer to Travis, cologne and alcohol creating a toxic cloud. "What are you going to do about it, big man? Roll over me?" Something shifts in the air, the invisible current that precedes lightning. Travis stands slowly. Despite his weight, he rises with military precision and unexpected grace. Brian steps back involuntarily as Travis reaches his full height, towering over him by several inches. The booth that had seemed to constrain Travis now appears too small in retrospect. Standing, his presence commands the space, reshaping the power dynamic instantly. "Last chance," Travis says, voice level but carrying to every corner of the suddenly silent diner. "Walk away." Brian, too committed to his performance to retreat, jabs a finger into Travis's chest. The gesture seems childish now, a boy poking a mountain. "Or what?" Brian challenges, voice betraying the first tremor of uncertainty. Travis checks his watch one final time, a deliberate movement that carries more menace than any threat could. "Time's up," he says simply. The air in the diner crackles with tension. Every person present feels it, the inevitable moment before consequences arrive. The diner falls silent as the air crackles with the electricity that precedes a storm. Brian attempts to match Travis's stance, drawing himself up like a peacock displaying plumage. The effect falls flat bravado versus genuine authority. "Look who decided to show some backbone," Brian sneers, but his voice lacks its previous confidence. The diner door opens with practiced smoothness. A woman enters early 40s, sharp pantsuit, alert eyes scanning the room with professional efficiency. She locks onto Travis, gives an almost imperceptible nod, and remains positioned by the entrance. Travis keeps his hands visible and open at his sides, the practiced stance of someone trained to de-escalate while remaining combat-ready. "I've given you multiple opportunities to walk away," he says evenly. Dominic circles wider, filming from another angle. "This is gold," he mutters, digital courage masking physical cowardice. The other diners remain frozen in their seats, witnessing the confrontation with uncomfortable fascination. Frank emerges from the kitchen and begins approaching, but Travis gives him a subtle hand signal to stay back. Brian, trapped by his own behavior and the watching audience, chooses escalation over retreat. He shoves Travis's shoulder with enough force to move an ordinary man. "Sit back down, you don't—" Travis doesn't budge an inch. The businessmen blink in collective surprise. "That's 3 times you've put hands on me," Travis says. His voice remains conversational, which somehow makes it more intimidating. "There won't be a 4th. The air changes, subtle but unmistakable. Several diners shift in their seats, sensing the imminent collision of different worlds. "What are you going to do about it?" Alex challenges, stepping beside Brian in false solidarity. Travis doesn't answer immediately. His silence carries more weight than words. "Gentlemen," he finally says, "I've been patient. I've been respectful. I've given you every opportunity to maintain your dignity." He reaches into his pocket. The businessmen flinch collectively. Travis pulls out his phone, taps once. "Proceed," he says to someone on the other end. The woman by the door straightens. Outside, men in suits exit the black vehicles with synchronized precision. Brian's face flushes with the first real fear. "Who the hell are you?" In the heartbeat of silence that followed, the balance of power shifted like tectonic plates before an earthquake. The diner door opens again. A distinguished older man enters, silver hair framing an aristocratic face. His impeccable suit speaks of genuine wealth, not the aspirational display of Brian's group. Two security personnel flank him, professional and alert. "Travis," the man acknowledges with a respectful nod. Recognition flickers across Brian's face. Blood drains from his features as connections form in his mind. "James," Travis responds with equal formality. "These are the individuals I mentioned." James Thornton, CEO of Hampton Thornton Investment Group, surveys the businessmen with the dispassionate gaze of someone accustomed to evaluating assets and liabilities. "Are these Westlake Financial employees?" he asks, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer. Travis straightens imperceptibly. "Yes, they're celebrating a deal." Dominic's phone continues recording, now capturing their own stunned expressions rather than Travis's humiliation. "Colonel Hampton," James says, the military title hanging in the air like a thunderclap. "I apologize for interrupting your breakfast." Gloria smiles from behind the counter, vindication warming her face. Travis turns to the businessmen. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. Travis Hampton, United States Marine Corps, retired, Purple Heart recipient." He pauses, letting the information sink in before delivering the final blow. "And as of last quarter, majority shareholder in Thornton Global, the parent company of your employer." Brian opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. No words emerge. "This weight you've been mocking?" Travis continues, gesturing to his body. "Partial result of injuries sustained saving my unit from an ambush in Fallujah. The doctors say I'm lucky to be walking." The silence in the diner is absolute. Even breathing seems to have paused. "I'm also chairperson of the ethics committee that reviews all personnel from subsidiary companies." Travis points to Dominic's phone. "I'll need that recording for the review meeting this afternoon." The woman who entered earlier approaches, handing Travis a tablet with practiced efficiency. "Sir, I've pulled up the personnel files as requested," she states. Travis reviews the screen. Brian Wilson, Alex Hoffman, Dominic Pierce, and Paul Taylor. Westlake Financial, M&A Division. He looks up, meeting each man's eyes in turn. "Gentlemen, consider yourselves on administrative leave pending review." Paul steps away from his colleagues. "Mr. Hampton, Travis raises a hand. "We'll discuss individual involvement later." Brian finds his voice at last, desperation overriding judgment. You can't just... We were just having some fun." "Harassment isn't fun," Travis replies calmly. "Discrimination isn't fun. Creating a hostile environment isn't fun." James checks his watch. "The board is assembling at 2. I suggest you gentlemen use the intervening hours to secure representation." The security personnel move closer, not threatening but unmistakably present. "You recorded your own violations of company policy," Travis observes. "That simplifies the process considerably." Dominic lowers his phone, realization dawning that he's documented his own professional execution. The young couple who had watched earlier now stare in amazement. The woman catches Travis's eye and mouths a silent, "Thank you." Travis acknowledges her with a slight nod before turning back to the businessmen. "My security team will escort you to the office. Your devices will remain with you, but please be aware that attempting to delete evidence would constitute additional violations." Alex, desperate, tries another tack. "Travis, Mr. Hampton, Colonel, surely we can discuss this privately. Come to some arrangement?" Travis's expression doesn't change. "Everything will be handled through proper channels, with full transparency." He turns to Gloria and Frank. "Thank you for your patience. I apologize for the disruption." Frank shakes his head. No apology needed, Colonel. It's an honor having you here. The other diners begin to murmur, the spell of silence broken. Several nod in approval. The elderly man who had tried to intervene earlier raises his coffee cup in salute. Travis gathers his belongings with the same methodical precision he's demonstrated throughout. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. He addresses the businessmen one final time. Today you had a choice. You chose poorly. Now, I have a choice. He lets the words settle. We'll see what I choose this afternoon. The four men who had entered the diner as powerful predators now stood frozen as prey, caught in the crosshairs of consequences they never saw coming. The conference room at Hampton Thornton headquarters gleams with understated luxury. Afternoon sunlight filters through tinted windows, illuminating Travis in a tailored suit that transforms his appearance from target to titan. The man sitting at the head of the polished table bears no resemblance to the seemingly vulnerable figure from the diner. Here, Travis Hampton's size projects authority rather than vulnerability. James Thornton takes his place at Travis's right while the company's legal team arranges documents with practiced precision. On the wall-mounted screen, the diner footage plays silently. The contrast between Travis's dignity and the businessmen's cruelty appears even starker in the corporate setting. Pause there, instructs Elaine Winters, Hampton Thornton's general counsel. The screen freezes on Brian's finger, jabbing Travis's chest. That's the third physical contact, following two unwanted touches to the shoulder. Each constitutes battery under state law. James shakes his head. Beyond legal concerns, this violates at least 6 provisions of our ethics code. 7, Travis corrects quietly. There's religious discrimination in the section we haven't reached yet. The HR director, Sophia Mendez, reviews the personnel files spread before her. Their performance metrics are impressive. Brian Wilson has consistently exceeded targets by 23%. Alex Hoffman brought in the Stevens account last quarter. Dominic Pierce has strong client retention numbers. And that's why this behavior has been tolerated, Travis observes. Results over character. Elaine taps her tablet. There's more. I've found 3 previously dismissed complaints against Brian Wilson for inappropriate behavior, all filed by female employees, all mysteriously resolved without formal action. Travis leans forward. Pull those files for review. Contact the complainants directly with appropriate sensitivity. Across town at Westlake Financial, the 4 men sit in separate conference rooms, each accompanied by an HR representative and security guard. Brian paces his assigned room like a caged animal. This is ridiculous. He can't do this. I want to call my lawyer. You're welcome to legal representation, the HR representative states flatly. However, I should inform you that your employment agreement includes a binding arbitration clause for workplace misconduct. In another room, Alex alternates between aggression and pleading. It was just jokes, locker room talk. Everyone does it. Down the hall, Dominic stares at his phone, now evidence against him. I wasn't really part of it, he insists. I was just recording. Only Paul sits quietly, shoulders slumped. When the HR representative enters, he looks up with resignation. I know I messed up, he says simply. I should have stopped them. Back at Hampton Thornton, additional evidence accumulates. The young couple from the diner submits written statements. 3 other patrons come forward with accounts of previous incidents involving the same group. Gloria provides her statement to a Hampton Thornton representative at the diner. They've harassed other customers before, she confirms, especially women and minorities, but no one's ever held them accountable. She smiles with satisfaction. Until today. Travis reviews the mounting documentation with methodical thoroughness. Nothing escapes his attention: the pattern of behavior, the enabling corporate culture, the witnesses who stepped forward, and those who remained silent. James studies Travis's expression. You're thinking beyond these 4 men. This is symptomatic, Travis confirms. One incident in a pattern, One pattern in a system. The diversity officer, Aisha Clark, presents Travis with options ranging from termination to rehabilitation programs. Our recommendation is immediate termination for Brian Wilson, Alex Hoffman, and Dominic Pierce. Paul Taylor presents a more complicated case. He participated less actively and has no prior incidents. Travis listens carefully, weighing justice against opportunity for growth. What would rehabilitation actually look like? Not just sensitivity training videos and signatures on policies. We've developed a more intensive program, Aisha explains. Community service, mentorship with diverse leaders, ongoing accountability metrics. It's demanding and meaningful, not a checkbox exercise. Travis nods. Schedule time for me to meet with Paul Taylor privately. The meeting with Paul takes place in a smaller conference room. The young man enters nervously, tie askew despite obvious attempts to appear professional. Sir, he begins. Travis raises a hand. Before you speak, I want you to watch something. On the screen, the diner footage plays again. This time focused on Paul's face as his colleagues escalate their harassment. Discomfort, nervousness, occasional forced laughter, but never the same malicious enjoyment as the others. When the video ends, Paul's eyes are wet. I knew it was wrong, he admits. I wanted to say something, but what? Travis asks, voice neutral. They control assignments, client access. Brian could tank my career with a word. Paul looks down. That's not an excuse, just the truth. I was a coward. Travis studies him. Do you know why I waited so long to respond this morning? Paul shakes his head. I was watching, observing who participated actively, who followed along, who remained silent. Travis leans forward. Silence in the face of wrong isn't neutral, Paul. I know that now, Paul whispers. What would you do differently, if you could go back? Paul thinks for a moment. I should have told them to stop. Directly, immediately. If they didn't listen, I should have gone to Travis, to you, and apologized. Then left their table. Travis nods. And if that cost you professionally? Some prices are worth paying, Paul answers, meeting Travis's eyes for the first time. Meanwhile, the PR crisis team assembles to craft statements. Their director presents Travis with carefully sanitized language about alleged incidents and thorough review processes. Travis reads it once and hands it back. No. Sir? The director questions. This sterilizes hate, Travis says. We'll be direct. Acknowledge what happened. Name the behaviors precisely: racism, harassment, discrimination. Affirm our zero-tolerance policy. Outline specific consequences. That approach carries significant risk, the PR director cautions. So does moral cowardice, Travis counters. Draft it again. As afternoon stretches into evening, Travis reviews every document, considers every perspective. The weight of decision rests on his shoulders, just as it did in combat situations where lives hung in the balance. James finds him alone in the conference room after the others have left. You've always been thorough, he observes. Travis gestures to the files. 4 careers, multiple complainants, a company culture. The stakes deserve thoroughness. Have you decided? Travis nods slowly. Justice without opportunity for redemption isn't justice at all. But opportunity without accountability isn't redemption. He closes the final file. I'm ready. The next morning, formal hearing procedures begin. The boardroom has been arranged like a court, one side for the accused, another for the company representatives. Security stands discreetly at the doors. Travis enters last, his presence immediately commanding the space. Brian, Alex, and Dominic sit with their attorneys. Paul sits separately, alone. This hearing will address the incidents that occurred yesterday at Westside Diner. Travis begins without preamble. We have reviewed extensive evidence, including video recordings, witness statements, and personnel histories. Brian's attorney stands. My client wishes to express regret for what was clearly workplace humor taken out of context. Travis raises a hand, silencing him. Before characterizing the events, let's review them. He signals, and the complete video plays on the large screen. In the harsh light of the boardroom, the bullying appears even more egregious. Several board members shift uncomfortably as the footage unfolds. When it concludes, Travis addresses each man individually. Mr. Wilson, at time index 342, you stated, and I quote, "People like him are the reason health insurance premiums keep rising." At 417, you initiated physical contact without consent. At 6:33, you blocked my exit from the booth, constituting unlawful restraint. He continues with similar precision for each participant, highlighting moments where they had opportunities to make different choices. Alex breaks first. It was just joking around. Brian always does this kind of thing. The pressure to fit in. So your defense is that you harass people routinely? Travis asks quietly. Dominic attempts his own justification. I was just recording. I didn't say anything offensive. You facilitated and documented harassment for entertainment, Travis corrects. Your laughter is audible 17 times during the recording. Brian maintains defiant eye contact but says nothing until his attorney whispers urgently in his ear. Travis presents the additional pattern of behavior documented by diner staff and other witnesses. He then displays their past performance reviews, highlighting sections where aggressive behavior was praised as assertiveness and competitive spirit. Our culture has rewarded results while ignoring methods, Travis observes. That ends today. Paul speaks without prompting, his voice steady despite his obvious nervousness. I want to apologize, not just for yesterday, but for every time I've stayed silent when I should have spoken up. What we did was wrong. I have no excuses. He looks directly at Travis. I'm prepared to accept whatever consequences are appropriate. Travis nods in acknowledgement before delivering his verdict. Brian Wilson, Alex Hoffman, and Dominic Pierce, your employment with Westlake Financial is terminated effective immediately. The evidence of your misconduct will be submitted to industry oversight boards as required by regulation. He turns to Paul. Paul Taylor, you are suspended without pay for 3 months. During that time, you will complete our intensive rehabilitation program and community service requirements. Upon successful completion, you will be reassigned to our Community Investment Division. As Brian stands to leave, his mask of control finally slips. This is bull... A racial slur escapes under his breath, just loud enough to be heard. Travis doesn't react visibly. Security, please escort Mr. Wilson from the building immediately. As Travis prepared to deliver his decision, he reflected on a battlefield lesson. Sometimes the greater victory comes not from destroying your enemy, but from transforming them. The formal hearing reconvenes after a 30-minute recess. Brian, Alex, and Dominic sit stiffly on one side of the long mahogany table, their attorneys beside them. Legal pads and water glasses remain untouched. The air conditioning hums too loudly in the tense silence. Paul sits separately, no lawyer at his side. His posture communicates acceptance rather than defense. The door opens. Travis enters last, his presence immediately recalibrating the room's energy. The difference between the Travis they mocked and Colonel Hampton before them couldn't be more stark, not because of the tailored suit or military bearing, but because of the power dynamic they failed to recognize earlier. Brian's attorney, a sharp-featured man with an expensive watch, speaks first. Before final determinations are made, my client wishes to emphasize that this was workplace humor gone awry. Mr. Wilson has an exemplary performance record. Travis silences him with a raised hand. Without speaking, he activates the display. The complete video plays again, this time with enhanced audio capturing every slur, every laugh, every moment of cruelty. Several board members wince at particularly vicious comments. One woman removes her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose as if fighting a headache. When the footage ends, Travis addresses each man individually, highlighting precise moments when different choices could have been made. Mr. Wilson, at timestamp 7:14, Gloria approached your table. You could have recognized her concern as legitimate. Instead, you dismissed her with a derogatory gesture and continued your behavior. He turns to the next man. Mr. Hoffman, at 8:22, you observed Mr. Pierce filming without consent. You encouraged this invasion of privacy rather than suggesting he stop. His methodical dissection continues, laying bare every opportunity for decency they rejected. Alex breaks first, shoulders slumping. We'd been drinking, celebrating the Harrington deal, the pressure and stress of this job. You don't understand what it's like. I understand leadership under pressure, Travis replies evenly. I've made life or death decisions with insufficient information while being shot at. Pressure doesn't excuse cruelty, it reveals character. Dominic attempts his own defense. I was just filming, not participating. I didn't say anything offensive. The recording shows you laughing at 17 separate instances of harassment, Travis corrects. Enabling and documenting abuse for entertainment makes you complicit. Brian maintains defiant eye contact but says nothing. Travis reveals the additional pattern established by witness statements and previously dismissed complaints. He then displays their performance reviews, highlighting sections where aggressive behavior was reframed as positive traits. Intimidation described as assertiveness, bullying labeled as competitive spirit, harassment disguised as team building. Travis shakes his head. The language we use matters. It shapes what we tolerate. Paul speaks last without prompting. His apology addresses not just the incident but the culture that enabled it, the silent approval, the fear of speaking up, the misplaced loyalty. I've been part of the problem, he concludes. I want to be part of the solution. Travis delivers his verdict with the same calm authority he's maintained throughout. Brian, Alex, and Dominic are terminated, with the video and findings sent to industry oversight boards. Paul receives suspension, rehabilitation requirements, and reassignment. The defeated businessmen gather their belongings. Security waits discreetly to escort them from the building. As Brian stands to leave, something breaks inside him. His carefully maintained facade crumbles into ugly truth. He mutters a slur just loud enough to be heard by those nearest him. The room freezes. The attorney closes his eyes in defeat. Mr. Wilson, Travis says, voice unchanged. Thank you for confirming our decision. Security steps forward immediately. No further words are exchanged as Brian is escorted out, his final act of defiance serving only to validate his termination. After they exit, Travis addresses the remaining executives. This isn't about one incident or 4 individuals. It's about the culture we've allowed to develop. That changes today. He stands, signaling the hearing's conclusion. When we reward results without examining methods, we become complicit in the damage done. That's the harder lesson here, and the one we need to learn. The fall of 3 careers was just the beginning, a ripple that would soon grow into a wave of change throughout the industry. 6 months later, Travis stands at a podium, addressing a packed auditorium at the National Financial Services Conference. Behind him, a simple slide displays the title, Cultural Transformation in Finance, Beyond Compliance to Community. Camera flashes punctuate his words. Industry leaders lean forward in their seats. The transformation of Hampton Thornton from respected investment firm to cultural catalyst has made Travis an unlikely reformer. The metrics we choose define the culture we create, Travis states, voice carrying to every corner. When we measure only profit, we get toxic pursuit of profit. When we measure ethical conduct alongside performance, we transform the landscape. On screens throughout the venue, headlines scroll. Hampton Thornton implements industry-leading ethics framework. Discrimination complaints, down 64% after financial sector adopts Hampton Protocol. Wall Street culture shift, metrics beyond money. In a quieter moment between panels, Paul navigates the conference hall in his new role with community development initiatives. His transformation is evident, not just in his more relaxed attire, but in the authentic confidence that has replaced desperate conformity. The mentorship program has 18 graduates now, Paul tells a group of interested executives. Former targets of workplace harassment now train management teams on recognition and intervention. He catches Travis's eye across the room and nods in acknowledgement, student to teacher, reformed to reformer. Gloria gives an interview to Business Weekly in the now thriving diner. The journalist notes the establishment's transformation, more diverse clientele, a prominent sign declaring it a harassment-free zone, monthly veterans' breakfasts that bring together former service members from all backgrounds. That morning changed everything, Gloria explains, coffee pot still in hand. Not just for those men who got what was coming to them, but for all of us who saw that speaking up matters, that consequences exist. Frank joins the interview briefly. Colonel Hampton could have just handled his own situation. Instead, he created a ripple effect. That's leadership. At Hampton Thornton headquarters, former employees of Westlake Financial participate in a roundtable discussion. They reveal Brian's behavior was long-standing but protected due to his performance numbers. Revenue generation excused everything, a former colleague explains. Complaints disappeared. Ethics were optional if your numbers were good enough. Travis unveils the company's response, an industry-wide anonymous reporting system with third-party oversight. Already, 27 financial institutions have adopted the platform. At a Veterans Leadership Forum, Travis meets with other former military personnel working in finance. They discuss translating military leadership principles into corporate transformation. In combat, we learned that character under pressure reveals truth, Travis tells them. Why accept less in boardrooms than we required in battle? On a rain-slicked street across town, Brian exits a budget coffee shop wearing the uniform of a regional bank several steps down from his former position. He pauses before an electronics store display showing Travis receiving an Industry Leadership Award. Recognition flickers across Brian's face, not just of Travis, but of the consequences of his own actions. He watches silently before turning away, collar raised against the rain. Sometimes the most powerful changes begin with the most painful moments, and the courage to stand firm when others would bend. 1 year later, Travis slides into the same corner booth at West Side Diner. Sunshine streams through freshly cleaned windows, catching on the simple gold band he now wears. His frame carries less weight-improved medical treatments have helped, but his presence remains commanding, a natural authority that needs no announcement. Gloria approaches with a genuine smile. Coffee? Black? Extra hot? You know me too well, Travis replies, returning her smile. Frank emerges from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dishcloth. He extends one for a firm handshake. Colonel, good to see you. Good. The diner has evolved subtly. A small plaque near the entrance recognizes local veterans. Community flyers cover a bulletin board where patrons post needs and offers of help. The atmosphere feels warmer, more connected. Business is good, Frank confirms without Travis having to ask. Different crowd these days. Better. Travis nods in satisfaction, surveying the diverse mix of customers. Students with laptops, workers in various uniforms, professionals of all backgrounds. His attention catches on a young black man in an ill-fitting suit at a nearby table, clearly uncomfortable as two older executives interview him. The young man's responses come hesitantly, each answer followed by subtle dismissive glances between the interviewers. Travis recognizes the pattern immediately. The same subtle discounting he experienced before his military career gave him undeniable credentials. The executives excuse themselves to make a call, leaving the young man alone. His shoulders slump slightly as he reviews his resume with a critical eye. Travis approaches, movements casual but purposeful. First big interview? The young man looks up, startled. Yes, sir. That obvious? The tie gave it away, Travis says with gentle humor. May I? He gestures to the empty chair. As Travis sits, He offers simple, practical advice, not about qualifications, but about presence, about belonging in spaces designed to make you feel you don't. They're looking for confidence, Travis explains, not arrogance, but the certainty that you deserve to be at the table. Recognition dawns in the young man's eyes. "You're Travis Hampton," he says suddenly. "I just read about you in Business Leadership Monthly." Travis smiles. Guilty. The executives return, noticing Travis immediately. Their demeanor transforms, backs straightening, voices warming. "Colonel Hampton, what an unexpected pleasure." Travis stands, placing a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Just catching up with this promising talent I've been mentoring. His quantitative skills are exactly what you need for your risk assessment division." The dynamic shifts instantly. The interview resumes with newfound respect, the young man's answers now met with genuine interest rather than polite dismissal. Later, as Travis prepares to leave, the young man approaches to thank him. "That changed everything. Why would you help a stranger?" Travis hands him a business card. "Because someone should have done the same for me earlier. The door's always open if you need anything." Outside, Travis meets James waiting by a town car. They walk together, discussing the changes their actions have catalyzed throughout the industry. "The diversity initiatives are showing measurable results," James reports. "Retention up 18%. Harassment complaints down 32%. Travis nods in satisfaction. Numbers matter when they measure the right things. "You could have destroyed those men completely," James observes as they walk. "Brian Wilson in particular." Travis pauses thoughtfully. The point was never destruction. It was correction. They pass a coffee cart where Brian serves customers, his designer suits replaced by a simple uniform. Their eyes meet briefly across the sidewalk. Brian offers a somber nod of acknowledgement. Travis returns it without malice, without triumph, simply recognition of lessons learned on both sides. True strength isn't measured by how hard you can hit, but by the positive change you choose to create when you have the power to destroy. If you've been moved by this story of justice, courage, and transformation, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button now to help more people discover messages of strength and dignity. Stories like Travis's need to be shared in a world where standing up matters more than ever. Subscribe to Beat Stories for weekly narratives that inspire, challenge, and remind us of our power to create change. Turn on notifications so you never miss our newest uploads, powerful stories of ordinary people creating extraordinary moments of justice and transformation. Beat Stories, because every act of courage deserves to be told.